I like honest questions because we are pursuing truth, looking for the answer. And the most basic questions we should always ask are, how do we know, right? What proof do we have? What is the source? And when we start asking basic questions, what we identify is that so many of the attacks that are happening in culture today, whether it be against Christianity, whether it be against America, when you start asking some pretty basic questions, you realize that a lot of these attacks do not hold up when there's very basic questions asked about them. And the reason is that a lot of the arguments, a lot of the accusations are based on someone's emotions, its feelings. It's not necessarily facts or reality. Right. And when you start digging, and we need to do this honestly, right? Jesus was asking questions not just to show he was smarter than everybody else. He was challenging people to think. So for example, I spoke one time and I had a professor come up to me at the end of a talk, and actually it was on a Q&A, so open mic, but this professor said, I don't understand how you can say America is such a great nation because America's done more bad than we've ever done good. I said, really? Well, help me understand. What are all of the bad things America's done, right? Because I want to make sure we're at least having the same conversation. So, right. So what is your argument? He said, well, because we had slavery in America. We didn't give women's rights until the 1900s. I said, okay, those are interesting that you chose those two arguments. I said, if your standard of measurement that makes what makes a nation bad, like here's my measurement, a nation is bad because of slavery. I said, can you name a nation in the history of the world that never had slaves?
Right.
Now, this is a professor, mind you, right? And this professor says, well, no. I said, right, because every nation in the history of the world at some point not only had slaves, at some point they also were enslaved. Slavery was a condition of humanity for the entire history of the world.
Right, including God's own people.
Right.
Correct. And not to discount the fact that that still happens today.
Yeah.
There are 94 nations who are part of the UN who have still not passed laws to criminalize slavery. Okay. So slavery is still a real thing, more than 40 million people enslaved today. I said, but big picture, right? Can you name a nation where white people fought a war against other white people and at the end of the war, they freed all the black people?
That's right? A great one.
To my knowledge, that's only happened one time in the history of the world.
Yeah.
America paid a higher price in ending slavery. More than 600,000 Americans died that brought an end to slavery. Right? No other nation has paid that high of a price to end slavery. And for this professor, I also pointed out, now let's take women's rights for a second, right? Where do women have more freedoms or more rights than in America today? He said, well, I'm not talking about today. I said, well, I get you're not, but just humor me for a second. Where do women have more rights than in America today? He said, well, I guess nowhere. I said, here's the important question. What nation gave women those rights before America? And he couldn't give me a nation that gave women rights before America. And I said, here's the point, is we are judging America on a standard by which we judge no other nation. And that's why America seems so faulty to us, because we're using a different standard of measurement than the rest of the world. When you judge America on a standard of the rest of the world, what you discover is America is not perfect, but America has made improvements faster than almost anywhere else in the world when the rest of the world is still struggling with those same basic issues